Hey everybody, this is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. My guest today is no stranger to this podcast. He is the CEO of BHHS Fox Roach Realtors and the Trident Group. Of course, I am talking about Larry Flick. Larry joins us every year to bring his unique perspective as CEO of one of the most consistent, top-performing brokerages in the entire country. Today, we'll look back at how the first half of the year has played out and what surprised Larry about the market so far, and we'll also take a look forward at what's ahead for the second half of 2025. Last but not least, we'll touch upon interest rates, some good news about new trainings available at Fox & Roach, as well as potential updates coming to our ACE platform, and Larry's thoughts on some big changes to the senior leadership at BHHS. Larry and I are going to cover a lot of ground in this episode, so let's take a deep dive into 2025 with my special guest this week, Larry Flick. My guest today is no stranger to this podcast. He is the CEO of Fox & Roach and the Trident Group. Of course, I'm talking about Larry Flick, or as many of you know him, L5. Larry, it's always great to have you on the podcast. How you been?
I'm great, Jason. Thank you very much for having me. I enjoy being on your podcast. I think we've been doing this about twice a year now. And it's great. It's fun, and I enjoy it, and I appreciate the offer and the opportunity.
Well, I know you and I have been talking about doing this year. We're a little late in the game this year. I know our schedules didn't line up until now, but it's always great to have you on, get your perspective on things. And obviously there is a lot happening out there right now. And I think this is a perfect time to have you on. We're kind of mid-season here. We're after the All-Star break in baseball, right? Maybe that's what we should call this episode, after the All-Star break. But, how do you see consumer behavior evolving right now? Because buyers and sellers, are they adjusting their expectations in any noticeable way that you can see? Because I know what I see, but I want to get your perspective on what you see happening out there.
Yeah, I think a little bit. The informed buyers and sellers, I think, are adjusting their mindset a little bit. And when I say informed, I'm talking about being informed by a real estate professional from BHHS Fox & Roach. Buyers and sellers and consumers alike need to be very careful about taking guidance from, their cousin that happened to buy or sell a property within the last, 12 to 18 months. The market has adjusted a little bit. In low inventory markets, buyers are still making aggressive price offers. However, now, a little bit differently than before, we're seeing more home inspections, typically for quote-unquote informational purposes only, but we are seeing more home inspections. Buyers are fatigued. Buyers seem to be a little fatigued, and I don't blame them. It's been a really tough market for the last 5 years or so, but a little fatigued by the competitive market, and they tend to shy away from homes that are priced too aggressively. But well-priced, well-conditioned homes are in our marketplace. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit. The nation, the country, is all behaving differently. And the Northeast is one of the better performing regions. Actually, it's the best performing region in the country. And that's not uncommon. And after the run up back in the mid-2000s, we saw other markets explode. Ours went up, didn't explode. But when the correction came, other markets crashed. Ours didn't crash. We're sort of seeing the same thing right now. Markets that exploded during the pandemic and post-pandemic are seeing the same reversal. Our market definitely saw some improvement, but not as aggressive as some others. So we're not seeing the other side of that as much. Buyers with strong agent guidance, especially those with PHM pre-approvals, are having higher success in multiple offer scenarios. And pivoting to sellers, many sellers are trying to capitalize on high prices, sometimes overpricing their homes. You see the neighbor's house that sold for X, 6 months ago. Well, I should be able to get X plus 10%. And that's just not the case right now. The market is adjusting a little bit. Sellers are resisting since the NAR settlement, we all didn't, it was about a year ago, we really didn't know where that was going to go. But now we're starting to see that sellers are resisting paying buyer agent fees up front. They're not really putting that in the listing agreement. They're waiting for offers to decide what they're going to contribute to the buy side. Those sellers who price their homes competitively and listen to their agents are seeing stronger activity.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple things there that I'm seeing firsthand in my business.
Yeah.
One of which is a seller that is so hung up on a sale that happened last year. It's her neighbor's house. And man, she is like a dog with a bone. She has to get at least what they're getting. And it's just not that market anymore, and it's on that luxury end. And we're seeing a little softening there in certain pockets. And so, you mentioned that, and that immediately kind of went off in my head. I'm thinking about my client. And then you had mentioned just buyers being fatigued. I do get a sense out there that there is this overhanging malaise on the buying side. So I want to talk about specific market segments, because I think you had mentioned the stability in the Northeast. And I do feel like, real estate is like a pendulum. And Larry, you've been around long enough, kind of swings back and forth, buyer market, seller market. We've been on the seller side of that pendulum, but we don't have those wild swings. So I want to talk about just particular segments, because not all segments of the market act equally and at the same proportion that others do. So things like the luxury market, first-time home buyers, investment properties. Do you expect any of those segments to outperform or even underperform in the second half of the year?
Well, the luxury market continues to perform well, particularly in established towns and along the coast. There was a bit of a pause in the spring when the tariffs were announced, and the stock market crashed. I've never seen the stock market move like that and be as volatile as it was. And not only was the stock market taking a huge hit, we're talking 1,000 points a day for a few days. I've never seen anything like that. More than 1,000. The 10-year Treasury was also taking a hit. So it's very tough on our market when the stock market's down and the 10-year Treasury yield is up. Normally, they move in opposite directions, but that was not the case during that time when the tariffs were announced, and it created a ton of uncertainty in our market. But that seems to be behind us. High-end buyers still see real estate as a safe haven, and they're willing to pay for quality, especially when it comes to homes that can accommodate extended family or serve as second residences in desirable coastal areas. First-time buyers, on the other hand, are still facing headwinds. They're often up against cash buyers or downsizers that also could be cash buyers looking for the same entry-level properties. You have first-time home buyers and the seniors that are downsizing kind of looking for the same type of property, so it's making competition tough. Move-up buyers remain active, even in a tight inventory environment. They're stepping up to pay at or above asking price when the right home comes along.
Those properties, especially, single-family homes that are priced between, say, 400 to 800, tend to still fly off the shelf if they're priced accurately. Pricing is so important these days in this market. I feel you have to be very sharp with your pricing. I can only see what's happening in the suburbs. So the next question, we always cover this. I'd like to know what you're seeing in the city and how that's faring in relation to the burbs right now, because every time that we've spoken in the past recently, there's been a disparity with what's going on in the city market compared to the suburbs. So what are you seeing out there right now?
Yeah, totally true. It really depends on the neighborhood in the city. In areas like Rittenhouse Square and Graduate Hospital, they're still holding strong. Prices have remained steady and demand is solid. However, other pockets, especially condo buildings, condos are getting hurt across the country. Condo buildings along Broad Street and the Avenue of the Arts are facing challenges. Days on market are noticeably longer there, and buyer demand has softened a little bit. We're also seeing some city residents choose to relocate to the suburbs, often to be closer to family, or they have some concerns about the current state of urban living. Whether it's perceived or reality, there's some concerns that exist there. The suburbs continue to draw interest from multiple segments: downsizers, families, and those looking for a bit more space or stability. For many, the suburbs seem to be seen as a more desirable or secure choice in our current market. And that may be, some lingering hangover from the pandemic still. During the pandemic, as we all know, we saw a huge exodus from the city to the suburbs. That has definitely slowed, but we're still seeing some of that.
Yeah, I'm seeing actually a lot of downsizers in at least in my circle right now, that are looking over 55s, but they're also looking now in the over 55 rental market, which is like a burgeoning market around us. I've had a few clients that have actually chose to rent recently in the over 55 segment, which I find interesting. So that kind of throw that into the mix of the downsizers and the people that are looking to get out of their forever home to downsize. It's an interesting option when you have a lot of competition out there in that downsizing space. So how do you think agents should be adjusting their strategies in response to where the market is headed in quarter number 3 and quarter number 4? Do we need to shift our focus at all in your mind?
For the last couple of years, we've been waiting for interest rates to drop. And it just doesn't seem to be happening. And I'm not sure it's going to happen anytime soon. I mean, the 3s and 4s, their history. If we could get back into the 5s, that would be great. Agents need to embrace the current market as the new normal. So what are we talking about? Lower inventory in our marketplace is going to continue. Now it's grown. Inventory in our market is up about 25%. It has grown, but we're still not at 2019 levels. Interest rates, the new norm again, low inventory, interest rates where they are, plus or minus an eighth or a quarter. I watch the 10-year Treasury on a often daily basis throughout the day, and it just doesn't seem to move no matter what happens. The inflation rates came out this past week, pretty much in line, the low 2s to the mid 2s, and no movement on the 10-year Treasury. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, inflation used to be 9-10%. Now it's in the 2% range, and we're still not seeing a movement from the Fed. We're not seeing the 10-year Treasury drop. So I think interest rates where they are is also going to continue to be the standard for a bit. And then buyer competition, that's the third item. That's not temporary as well. That's going to remain. Our marketplace, again, if you look at, say, South Florida, down in South Florida, supply levels are up big time. Months supply of inventory in some markets in South Florida is 8, 9, 10 months. In our market, it's still in the 1.5 to 2 month range. Our market really hasn't adjusted that much, and I just don't see that happening until interest rates start to drop a fair amount. And when that occurs, you're going to have sellers that are willing to sell, give up that mid 3% interest rate to move into a mid 5%, and that's going to open up inventory. It's going to release a little bit of the pent-up demand with sellers and buyers, and we'll see the market unwind a little bit. But I don't think that's going to be in the next 8 to 12 months. I think interest rates are going to remain sort of where they are for that time being. The most effective agents aren't waiting around for listings. They're creating opportunities through focused prospecting. It starts with blocking time every day for lead generation and targeting life events, divorce, relocation, retirement. These life events often trigger the decision to sell. The message is simple. Don't wait for listings. Go find them. On the buyer side, agents should be setting clear, realistic expectations around interest rates and competition. A smart move is to show homes slightly under a buyer's max budget so they have room to be competitive in a bidding situation, which, as we talked about, is still occurring in our marketplace. And it's critical to work only with committed, serious, pre-approved buyers, preferably with Prosperity Home Mortgage, who understand the importance of pricing strategy, especially the gap between list price and sold price for homes that are in demand. Listings remain the key to leverage and control in this market. Agents should be pricing their listing based on current comps and list prices, not inflated sold prices from a different moment in the market like we talked about earlier. Homes also need to be truly show ready and correctly priced from day one to generate maximum interest. And finally, marketing matters now more than ever. Use the tools that are available to you at BHHS Fox Roach, the marketing concierge, the listing concierge, Ace Design Studio, and others to consistently position yourself as a polished professional agent. Run campaigns across multiple channels, social, direct mail, texts, calls, and make sure your wins are visible. Buyers and sellers want to work with agents who show up, stand up, and deliver results.
Everybody likes a winner, right? And hey, it's up to us to promote ourselves, right? If we're not going to promote ourselves, nobody else is going to do it for us. So, yeah, like you said, Fox and Roach has great tools. I know I incorporate them in my listing presentation. There are certain things that we do. I mean, whether it's showcase, like you had said, marketing concierge, there's so much that we can do to put a listing in front of people and make it look good for a seller. So, obviously, you mentioned some of those tools. So, we talked about economic indicators, and you had mentioned interest rates. I mean, God, if we could only get interest rates down, I'm just begging for 6% right now. I feel like if we can get to 6, like you can see the bottleneck. It's out there every day, and I feel like if we could just get the 6, that everything's going to open up. I mean, high fives would be fantastic, but even 6%. Everything's going to open up for everybody. Like you had said, those sellers are going to be maybe willing to move on at that point.
Yes.
And put their homes up for sale. So is there any other key economic indicators that you're watching right now that could impact housing demand and inventory in the coming months?
Well, like I said earlier, the 10-year Treasury, I watch that like a hawk. I mean, it's in the 440s now. And it teases us. It gets down in the low 420s, 418. We're talking about 4.20, and then it just starts to go back up. Like it was dropping up until a week ago, and then it started going back up. Because mortgage rates really mirror the activity of the 10-year Treasury. And if the 10-year Treasury can drop below 4%, that's when we'll probably get to where you're talking about rates at 6% or lower. The stock market, I think, is important as well. A rising stock market boosts consumer confidence. Buyers feel a little more, paper rich and are more willing to make big purchases. A drop in the market can quickly damper buyer enthusiasm, especially in the luxury markets. I mean, when the market was crashing is a bad word, but when it was falling rapidly back in, I guess it was March when President Trump announced those tariffs. It was a wild week, and everything seemed to be put on hold. At our company, I talked to agents. Everyone sort of went to the sidelines, and things have, gone back to normal since then. But those are the two main things. You watch the yields on the 10-year Treasury, which is really, and then also the consumer pricing index, the producer pricing index. Those are released once a month. The unemployment report, that's released on the first Friday of every month. The unemployment, the stronger that gets, the more people that are looking for work, the higher the unemployment rate goes, the less inflation you're going to see, and hopefully that will be reflective on the inflation rates and reflective on the 10-year Treasury and ultimately to mortgage rates. And then the stock market, of course.
My next couple of questions are pretty straightforward, but I think important ones for you. What's your biggest frustration about the real estate market right now?
Well, I'm not someone that I don't get frustrated easy. I used to, but as I've aged, I don't get frustrated or down easily. I'm very much an optimistic person. I'm very much a glass half full person. And I don't get distracted by things that I can't control. I like to focus on things that I can control. But the fact is, there are some things out there that are nudging me a little bit and can add to frustration levels. So in no particular order, I'm going to list a few things here.
Brought your laundry list with you.
Right. So you asked, with the NAR settlement that occurred, I think that we did a really good job of educating our sales professionals on how to operate in a post-NAR settlement environment. But it doesn't seem like our competitors did the same. So we have agents out there that are competitors that don't really understand the rules. They're leaning on our sales associates to explain the rules to them, which I know is frustrating for our sales professionals. And some agents are accepting listings at any cost, undercutting professionalism just to get a deal. So those are two things, the knowledge gap and the lack of professionalism when it comes to pricing and taking listings at reduced pricing. And the final thing that has bothered me a little bit over the last 6 months is the push for exclusive listings by our competitors. Exclusive models limit transparency. Now, before I get into that, there's always going to be a segment, a small percentage of the population where an exclusive listing makes sense for them. Maybe they're sick, they're ill, they may be elderly, but for the most part, the more people that you expose your listing to, the higher the price you're going to get for that listing. Exclusive models limit transparency and reduce consumer choice. Educating clients on the benefits of an open market is essential. So imagine you were in the possession of a rare and valuable piece of art and you wanted to take it to auction, and you hired an auction house, and the auction house had, would you prefer that they had 10 people show up at that auction or 100 people show up at that auction? I mean, that's the analogy. Take it a step further. Take it if you were auctioning your home. It's the same thing. Would you want 10 people showing up or 100? It just makes more sense to open up your listing to the marketplace. And quite frankly, I don't understand the stance that some of our competitors have about pushing the need and the desire to keep these listings quiet. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I think agents need to step up, stay informed, and speak out, especially in light of recent NAR changes and market disruptors.
A couple of those frustrations are shared with me, obviously. It's an eye-opening experience when you start to get offers on listings. And with the rule changes, I find it odd, number one, that very rarely, and I hear other agents say the same thing, very rarely do we get contacted about buyer broker commissions. Agents just show the property. Don't ask. That's fine. They could do that. The other thing is that I find odd is that a lot of people are just putting the commissions in the contracts now, which is fine, again. But I think it just speaks to, like you said, the disparate knowledge, I guess, of maybe one brokerage compared to another, just not being educated enough. We're not all on the same page a lot of times, which is very frustrating. And to speak about your, the private listings, I mean, I just, again, I don't want to get off on a tangent about this thing, but I think it's very disingenuous to act like that's the best solution 99% of the time when it's just not. Like you said, your analogy was very apt of, you have a priceless piece of art. Of course, you want to expose it to the masses as much as humanly possible. Oh, and by the way, that's a good way to get yourself in trouble down the line. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, a seller that when they see what's going on and their eyes open up to what could have been, I just feel like that is just a lawsuit waiting to happen, in my humble opinion. Again, not going to get off all my soapbox about this, but I do think, and I'm sure, Larry, you agree with me, I just think it's just bad business.
I do agree. I mean, imagine you're a seller on Main Street, you're 123 Main Street, and you sell your house and you go down the exclusive route and you get $800,000 for it, and then a month later, someone else at 456 Main Street lists their house, very similar property, and they open it up to the market and they get $925,000 for it. I mean, these are real world examples. Yes, I do think you're looking at a potential class action lawsuit with, sellers that feel like they may have gotten shorted. And then from the buyer's side, how about the buyers that missed out on properties that were sold through an exclusive route? I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I just feel that there is some potential concern in that area for going down the exclusive route. But before you even get to that, it just makes sense if we're going to represent our sellers properly in order to get them the best price for their probably most valuable asset that they own, it's to open it up to the open market, open it up to the most people as possible that are in the market to purchase an asset that you're looking to sell.
For sure. Absolutely. 100%. So what's your biggest reason? Now I'm going to flip the script here. What's your biggest reason for optimism heading into the second half of the year?
A few things. Our commitment to our agents' growth at BHHS Fox and Roach. There's a company-wide push to help agents earn what they're worth on both the listing and the buyer sides. We just launched, we had our Ignite Your Value series over the last year or so. We just launched our updated version of that. We just trained our sales leaders on how to help our sales professionals earn what they're worth when taking on listings or taking on buyers. No other competitor is in the marketplace is doubling down on agent value and skill building in the same way that we are. But I ask you, your sales leaders are going to be announcing these trainings. It's going to be at sales meetings, it's going to be separate trainings for this. Please attend these live training sessions. We want to help our sales professionals at BHHS Fox and Roach earn what they're worth. Secondly, market and economic fundamentals. As I mentioned earlier, the Northeast is the strongest region in the country right now. Units in the Northeast are down 3.68% year over year, and volume is up 3.55%. So that means average sale price is up in the range of 7%. At BHHS Fox and Roach, we're outperforming the region by a little bit, but we are. Units are down 3.1% year over year through June, and volume is up 4.5%. So we're outperforming the region and the market in volume by about 1%. The third thing is the consumer seems to be adjusting to the new norm. A year and a half ago, when are rates going to drop? When's inventory going to loosen up? But I think that our buyers, the buyers especially, seem to understand that interest rates are where they're going to be for a bit. Buyer competition is going to remain where it is, and inventory, although it's loosening a little bit, is going to continue in this area. I think sellers, it seems to me, are always sort of the last to come around. But our sales professionals, I know, are educating our sellers on making sure they price their home properly.
I always say that, consumers are a lagging indicator, right? Everybody's got to catch up to where we are now. We know where we are as agents, but a lot of times our clients, we have to educate them in order to help them catch up to where we are and where the market is. So I want to talk about some new tools, some resources or platforms that the company plans to roll out to help agents grow their business. You had mentioned, that we're here to help the agents grow, to make sure that their business is doing as much as it possibly can be doing. So what are some new tools and resources or platforms that we're going to be rolling out?
So, you're right. My job as CEO and the job of the entire leadership team is to make sure that our sales professionals are equipped with the support they need from our leadership team and the tools and technology they need to achieve everything they want to achieve. Now, with that being said, I'm often told we at BHHS Fox and Roach, we have too many tools. I don't know where to go to find what I want to do. I've heard that more than once. So the tools, Jason, are already in place. We're not launching any new tools. We've got some great stuff already. In fact, what we're doing is we're really shifting towards better use and support of our most impactful and popular tools. We're going deep, not wide. So we did a survey, and it was shared with us that our 6 most important and impactful tools are Real Scout, Cole Realty Resource, Moxie, Ace Design Studio, BHHS Connect, and Active Pipe. So what we're doing, the first thing we're doing is we're going to go super strong with the training on these 6 tools. Live training. This month, it's Real Scout. Next month, it'll be another one, and we're going to continue until we get through all 6. Again, the training is in person, allowing hands-on use and immediate support. Our new director of education, Margie Venturi, is in the process of preparing all these trainings. The Real Scout training is happening right now. And then the second thing we're going to do, and we're in the process of doing this right now, is redesigning ACE so that it focuses most of its space on these 6 tools. And it will have a Google type search bar where you can easily find the tool that you want to use. It will also bring tools to the top of the list that you use more frequently. So it's going to be easier to navigate. It's going to look a little better. So that's sort of where we're headed with this thing. It's not about adding tools. In fact, ultimately we want to take away the tools, not take away, but put them in the background, tools that our agents aren't using, and put in the foreground the tools that our agents are using, double down on the training on those tools so that we can really help our sales associates use those tools with our support to help grow their business.
I love that. I think that's a perfect place to start, is with those 6 tools, because that's what the vast majority of our agents are using. I want to give a shout out to Margie, by the way. Margie's doing a fantastic job. I love what Margie's doing with some of these trainings and the tools. And so, like you said, taking a deep dive into these things month by month makes total sense to me. And I love the changes that are coming in ACE. So I look forward to seeing my popular items migrate to the top of the list. I hate trying to find everything.
We're working on it. We hear you. We hear everybody. It's according to Rajiv, Rajiv's the best, right? Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have this in place by Labor Day. Don't hold me to it, because that was when we talked like a month ago. We're depending on our vendor, but it is definitely a high priority.
That's great. That's awesome. I know the agents are really going to like that. So we talked about all the industry changes happening, from commissions to consumer platforms. What is the company working on to help agents stay ahead of the curve? I mean, you just mentioned some of those things. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
We've covered it really. It's for us. It's really about it's a number of things. I mean, right now, it's about, and has always been about, providing our agents with the support they need. That is from their sales leader, their regional president, marketing department, myself, everybody on the leadership team. We are committed to providing our agents, and we use the term often, everything you need. We mean it, though. I mean, people ask me, what do you do, Larry? And what I do, I try to make sure that our team is working together to make sure that our agents have what they need from a leadership team perspective, the tools, and most recently, it's about this, the Ignite Your Value training that we're putting together, helping our agents. We just launched a training session. Like I mentioned earlier, we've trained our sales leaders. Our sales leaders are going to be further training our sales professionals on how to get what you deserve as a real estate agent in this very, very difficult industry. What our real estate agents, our professionals do on a daily basis is very, very difficult. And you deserve to get paid what you're worth. So we have launched an entire training that revolves around that. Margie just had the first training, our sales leaders they're starting to run their trainings right now. I was referencing the Margie training. We did the first session of Real Scout. We had 300 attendees at just the first one. So it's really about support from our leadership team, providing the tech support and tools that our agents need, and then helping our agents currently in this environment get what they're worth, because you deserve it.
In my opinion, the best training that you're going to get in the industry, right, is with us at Fox and Roach. There are a lot of agents that feel anxious and uncertain out there about the market, because they may be a relatively newer agent that got in when everything under the sun was selling in 2020, right? And now we're shifting into a different market. It's their first time experiencing like, oh my God, like there's inspections, like people are actually having inspections, like it's crazy to think like some agents are like, wow, this is new to me, after, say being in the business 4 or 5 years. So what message do you have for agents who are feeling uncertain or anxious about the months ahead? You had mentioned unit sales. Unit sales were down last year. They're down this year. What do you say to those agents who are feeling that kind of crunch?
Okay, a few things. First, you can't worry about things you can't control. Stay on the offense. Worry comes from focusing on the uncertain future. Replace that with daily action. Said another way, don't waste your worry. Whether you worry about something or you don't worry about something, it's going to happen or not happen anyway. So don't waste your energy on that. Focus on daily action. Set short-term goals like 45 to 60 days and go all in to hit them. Focus on being an invaluable local expert in your marketplace. Second, control the inventory. The market rewards agents who consistently prospect and generate inventory. Listing control equals market control. Be relentless in seeking out opportunities. Build habits one tool at a time. You can't tackle everything at once. Don't get overwhelmed by tech. Pick one tool. So this month it should be Real Scout. Attend our trainings and commit to using it daily for 30 days. This focused repetition turns tools into habits and then turns habits into results. Control what you can. Focus on activity volume, activity that creates volume. Prospecting, calls, appointments, and follow-ups. More activity will equal more closings. It's a simple but powerful equation. And finally, stand out with professionalism. Dive deep into the tools and training that actually move the needle. Be informed, articulate, and optimistic. This is very important. Represent the industry at its best. Be the agent who brings energy, confidence, and knowledge into every conversation.
I always say you want to be a shining light in what we do, right? You want to raise and elevate the professionalism in our industry. That's why I am where I am. In terms of brokerage, I believe Fox and Roach, we have the best professionals in the business, and we should always be looking to strive and make ourselves better every day in what we do. So I wanted to, as we get closer to the end of the podcast, I wanted to ask you, since I have you, about our new leadership at Berkshire Hathaway, specifically Vince Lisi and Chris Kelly. I think it's safe to say that, Vince is probably the most uniquely dressed person. If you've ever been to our conventions, you know exactly who Vince is. But Chris Kelly carries a lot of weight with him, and he's making some really good changes. And I just wanted to ask you about what you've seen personally since the two of them have been elevated, and what's your personal take on what they bring to the table?
Okay, so just so we're clear, Chris Kelly is the new CEO of HomeServices of America. Mm-hmm. So that's the 35 real estate companies and its financial services components, and it's also the franchise. And Vince Lisi has become president of the franchise, the brand. Chris is the boss. Chris Kelly is one of the smartest, if not the smartest person I've ever met in my life. His mind moves faster than I've ever seen. He makes quick decisions, informed decisions. His decisions make sense. At the end, he's a good person. Since he's taken over, I've seen drastic change for the positive at our company. His goals are he wants everyone, all 35 companies that really right now work very much independently of each other. And it's not an efficient way to run an organization. And it's hard to compete against some of the national companies with 35 companies operating independently. He wants us to start working better together. So what does that mean? It means, trying to get everybody on the same tools, the tools that our agents are using and that we're using internally so we can operate more efficiently. And that will allow us to save some money and use that money to reinvest it in the brokerage business. We had a live meeting, a leadership team meeting about 2.5 months ago. It was very upbeat. It was very informative. I feel very, very good about the company under the leadership of Chris Kelly. I'm friends with Chris. He's a good guy, and he's the perfect person to run this organization. And I think we're going to start to see him on CNBC in Fox Business because he's very well spoken, he's very well informed, and he has knowledge in all aspects of the industry, and to be a great spokesman for our company and the industry. Vince is also a friend of mine, good guy, a little bit different than Chris. Chris is a little bit on the quiet side. Vince is a very creative, high energy leader, but with a very strong track record. He runs a very successful BHHS company out in Omaha, and many of his agents rank among the top performers in our network, similar to what we have here at Fox and Roach. He knows what excellence looks like, and more importantly, how to help others achieve it. One of the things I love about Vince, he thinks outside the box. He loves change. He embraces change. He's always thinking of new ideas. I mean, Chris hiring Vince, Chris is going to have his hands full with Vince because Vince is going to constantly come to him with new ideas and new thoughts and pivots he wants to make. But these are healthy things to have happening at the top. I feel as good as I've ever felt about the leadership of the franchise in Home Services America. And it's a good situation for us as a company, and I love the direction that we're going.
Well, I can't wait to get to Nashville next year.
Nashville's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to take the trip down there and also see a new perspective, right? Because now you're going to have Chris Kelly on stage.
Yep.
Have Vince. It's going to be a new energy. It's going to be different, and it's going to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. So, all right, I'm going to end on this one. As you know, Larry, this is probably the question you hate the most out of every podcast.
I came prepared this time.
That's so funny. See, you've caught on to my tactics.
I have.
So you're prepared. I don't necessarily like that for the last. So I just want to say, I saw you recently post on social media. You were in England recently with your daughter, Riley. Looked like a great trip. I'm not blindsiding you.
A little bit. That's all right.
I'm just saying, it looked great. I hope you had a good time out there. And we always are in this professional space all the time. And so I know, Larry, you're always, you always have to be on, you know what I mean? And in front of our agents, in front of everybody. So I want to end again on a personal note with you. I want to know, just tell me something today that I currently don't know about Larry Flick.
All right. So I had one thing prepared, but I'm going to pivot away from that one. And because you brought up my daughter, Riley. So I think I'd like to share with everybody, sort of my family situation. So I have a daughter, Riley. She is 26 years old. She went to the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, and she hasn't come back. She lives in London right now. So she's been there for 8 years. She's a great kid. She's always smiling. She's just the sweetest person on the planet. So yes, I went to visit her in London. I had a great time. I rarely post personal things on social media. I think that's the second thing I've posted like in 4 or 5 years. The one I posted before was when my youngest daughter, Lily, was going to college. Lily attended UCLA, had a great experience out there. She always wanted to attend school in California. Got a great education there. She's currently in graduate school at Georgetown in their School of Foreign Service, and she's working at the UN this summer, which is a pretty action-packed place to be right now. And so those are my two daughters, Riley and Lily. Lily is 24. They're 26 months apart. So I think a lot of people know that, but I'm sure a lot don't. So I don't get to see them as much as I would like. But Lily's coming to town this weekend, so I'm looking to seeing her. And I'm headed. She's in New York this summer. I'm going up this week to see her for the day. And Riley will be home for Thanksgiving. She hasn't had Thanksgiving dinner in years, so she's really looking forward to it. They don't really celebrate it over there. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is a lot more lighthearted, is that I go to sleep insanely early.
Oh, yeah? Okay. All right.
I typically go to bed between 8 and 8:30 p.m.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, Larry. We were saying that is so funny that you were going to mention this, because we were literally talking about insomnia before we got on this podcast.
So
I envy you. I really do.
So going to bed that early is fine, like in the winter, because it's dark out. Whether it's 7, 8, or 10, it's still dark out. But like this time of year, it's full blown light out when I'm going to bed. Now I get up very early as well. I set the alarm for 6 a.m., but I'm often up by like 4 or 4:30. But I still get my 8.5 hours. I embrace the mornings. I love the morning. I like to get outside, work out. Sometimes I'll go to the driving range like at 6:30 or 7 in the morning when no one's there. And I like to start the day outside because it's very quiet and very peaceful. So I go to bed very early and I get up very early.
Well, I'll tell you, I can, as a golfer, and I know you're a golfer, I can see the beauty in getting up early, heading out to the course, maybe like around dawnish and being out there with a bucket of balls. And it's
fantastic.
Just your moment is zen.
Yeah.
From every other standpoint that you just mentioned, that is just my absolute nightmare. I can't. And I will tell you, I have friends, one in particular that's an agent in our Bluebell office. I want to give a shout out to Monica Mabin. Monica gets up super early in the morning. We are complete opposites in terms of, I'm a night owl. I hate getting up early.
Oh, that's funny.
Sometimes if I have a meeting at like 9 o'clock, I am miserable.
Oh boy.
I am just not, I'm not that guy. For whatever reason, I'm a night owl. I do better at night. Usually you're one or the other, right? You know? It just happens business wise. Everything happens early in the morning, which is just frustrating, So especially Larry, when we go to Penn's Landing Catering and we'd have to be there at 9 o'clock and we'd have to fight traffic all the way down to be there for breakfast at 8:30.
Yeah. I mean, because I start to fade, in the afternoon, like around 3.
Yeah.
So it's very rare that we as a leadership team have meetings past 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We get our meetings done in the morning. I just think that's better anyway. People are fresher. They're thinking more clearly. So.
Well, I told you before we started, I'm not waking up until like noon right now in my head because I'm on medication. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. As always, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Great information as always. Looking forward to our next time together. We'll probably, like you said, we'll probably be doing this twice a year.
Sounds good.
So maybe our next one will be around the turn of 2026 already. So.
Right, I know.
Crazy. So thank you, Larry. I always appreciate you joining us. And, I don't want to keep you until 2 o'clock, you So thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Jason.
That was the conversation with Larry Flick this week. I know we went a little long with the podcast, so I'll make this short. But really, the takeaway that I have in talking with Larry is just keep doing what you're doing. Make sure that you keep marketing yourself. Make sure that you keep putting yourself out there. Put yourself in a position to succeed. Because in this market, you're going to have to work a little harder. You're going to have to work a little smarter to gain business. Unit sales have been down a little bit. So what are you going to do today that's going to help your business 2, 3, 4 months from now, gain those listings, gain those clients, and control the market like Larry said? Well, that's it for the podcast this week. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, new guest, and as always, if you want to hear something that we haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the podcast yet or left us a review, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.